Okay, well, thank you all for coming and tuning in today. I'm Sally Chapman, the guest curator of the exhibit, The Book is Sculpture at the Brush Gallery in Lowell, Mass. And first, to start off, we want to hear from Jim Dement, who's the gallery director at the Brush.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I just had a few quick things I wanted to say at the beginning, and then we'll keep moving. So I want to thank everyone that's joining us tonight on the Zoom. And thank you to all the artists that agreed to be in this exhibit. I'm really grateful to Sally, who helped find all of you artists and worked with Christina to make a list. And thanks to the New England Book Artists for hosting this Zoom tonight. I wanted to mention that our reception is the 20th, which is this Saturday coming up. And we would love to see some of the viewers come to the gallery and see the exhibit in person. Our board of directors saw it Tuesday night because we had a board meeting and everyone was delighted. It's very unusual, and we haven't had anything this exciting for a little while, just for something different. We usually have a lot of traditional exhibits. And And then I just wanted to mention that the Brush is a unique organization. We have 11 studio artists, about 20 associate artists that rent wall space, and we have 6 days a week we're open for open studios. So I'll turn it back over to Sally. Thank you.
Anyway, thank you, Jim. And it's been a real pleasure curating this show. I've been interested in working in a sculptural manner in my own work, and I've been inspired by others and many of you who are also drawn to the same fascination. And it's been a lot of fun. This is the first time I've really done this, and I got to invite everybody that I think is wonderful. There's a lot more wonderful people that we didn't have room for, but maybe we'll do more. So now let's hear from some of them. The first, also, why don't you hold your questions, make notes, and hold your question until the end. And then we'll have a Q&A period afterwards. So we're going to start off with the collaborative team of Mariel Bass, Eric Demain, and Martin Demain. I've been admiring their curved folded pieces for many years, as well as their glass blowing. So take it away.
All right. Welcome, everyone. We're going to talk about this piece and collection of pieces called Brush with Words, which is hand-blown glass and hand-folded paper by the three of us. And we thought we'd start with a little introduction of who we are. If I click the right button.
Hi, I'm Mariel Bass. My primary medium is hot sculpted glass. And I would say I have kind of a narrative style, like this piece right here, which has fish carved into the surface of it.
Wow.
And I'm Eric Demain, and also on the call here is Martin Demain.
I am an artist in residence at MIT, and this is a shot of my office/studio at MIT, where Eric and I do most of our sculptures. You can see in the back that I'm also a glass blower as well as a curved paper folder, and sculpture is my passion.
I'm Eric Demain. I'm a professor at MIT in computer science, and we study the mathematics of paper folding, and we work a lot with this structure you see, which you'll see a bunch of today, curved folding, where we fold concentric circles into paper. It goes back to the Bauhaus in the late 20s, and it's been a very rich subject, both mathematically and artistically. This is actually our second collaboration between the three of us. Our first collaboration is this piece you see here, which was in Fitchburg last year. I think some of you have seen it. And it's our first large work. It's 14 feet tall, and paper hand folded along curved creases again, with hand-drawn little characters doing stuff on the edges of our paper that was laid out algorithmically. That's another talk. Today we're talking about our latest collaboration, just finished a few weeks ago, Brush with Words. So there's a bunch of things going on here, but the big highlight is this brush, which is about 5 feet long and 35 pounds. It's glass on the outside, some silver foil, and you see the curved crease folded paper on the inside, some paper bristles, and it writing a big text down here. And in the background, you see a couple of curved folded sculptures like this one. I'll show you each of these in a little more detail now. So here is the curved folding inside the glass brush, and the silver foil crimp part. Here are the paper bristles. And our vision is this is a magical brush. All the magic is in this folding here, all the stored energy. And when you write with this calligraphy brush, words just pour out of it here, and it folds itself into whatever text you desire. Sadly, the magic isn't quite working yet, so we had to fold these by hand. But this is on the right, you see the title of the piece, and on the left is what's called a word ladder. A word ladder is where it's a sequence of words, all in English, where each word is produced from the previous word by changing one letter, adding, removing, or changing a single letter. So we go brush, bush, busy, by, bay, way, war, ward, word, words. So brush to words. And here's some closer look at the curved crease sculpture that we made from some text that had already been already dried out from our magical brush, of an even larger word ladder, from paint to brush to words to books. And we take that sheet where it's no longer folded paper, now it's printed paper, and fold it into a curved crease sculpture. So kind of closing the loop from curved crease sculpture to curved crease sculpture. So that's an overview of the piece and what we had in mind. Now we'll tell you a little bit about where it came from and how it's made. So original inspiration is this font. My dad and I designed lots of different fonts, and especially around paper folding. So this is a design where a strip of paper, like this strip here, folds into a letter of the alphabet. And here we fold into the letter B and into the letter C and so on. So with just a strip of paper, you can fold anything. This is based on a mathematical result that from a long enough strip of paper and just diagonal folds, you can fold any surface made out of cubes. And it's very efficient. You just double the surface area. And then our second big inspiration is this show. The book is sculpture, so we wanted to do some book art, and we were fascinated by the name of the brush art gallery. This was our inspiration to make a brush with red ink. This is the sketch we made while we were visiting for the first time of this vision of a brush making words as it strokes the paper. And here's Marielle making the brush.
So this is the MIT Glass Lab, and that's Peter Hauk that's helping me there. So the glass starts out molten in a furnace. It's about 2100 degrees Fahrenheit. And then we'll go over and start shaping it and then inflating the bubble. You can see there Peter's blowing into the pipe, making the bubble bigger. And you can also use gravity and your motion to change the glass. So right there, you see we're hanging it down to get the length of the brush. It's a pretty wild material, lots of fun. And this was the longest piece we were able to make in our hot shop. That's me sculpting the end of the brush where it has a hole so we can hang it to dry. Yep, and that's the finished piece about to go into the oven.
So that's the big glass part. And then the next step is to fill that with paper. So here's Marty doing that.
You can see in the upper left, there's a curved form of paper, and those are the same ones that are used to kind of twist up and slide in. What's kind of magical, oh, it's happening. Whoa. Is because of the curved creases, they'll expand on their own to fill up the shape. And so you can get them through a very tiny hole and they pop open. Here's using some giant chopsticks maybe to kind of tighten and being able to add in more paper. The glass form was just perfect for adding these pieces.
You can see on the right here, the second glass piece has already been wrapped in silver leaf and also saran wrap, so we don't scratch it in this case. Then those two pieces get glued together. Oh, that's a later slide. First, we need to fill that tip of the brush with paper bristles. So we used a laser cutter to precisely cut at 0.1 inches paper bristles from the same paper that we fold. And then stuff the head of the brush with that paper. You can also see some paint brushes that we used as models here. Now the pieces get glued together. So there's the paper up here, there's the metal crimp part, and then the glass is all hiding, and big glass part is down here. That takes about a week for the glue to dry. That's the longest step. And then we have our finished glass magical brush. So now we need the text that comes out of the brush. And so we were inspired by this idea of word ladders that go back to Lewis Carroll, famous for Alice in Wonderland, who invented word ladders in the late 1800s. And they're challenging to find. So we wrote custom software to find them for us. In this case, we input brush and words, and we found that the shortest word ladder from brush to words is length 10. And this software we've released freely online, so you can play with it and make your own word ladders. I will do a quick demo here. If we type in hello to world, then we find the shortest word ladder from hello to world is length 8. And you click a button and you can fold it from a strip of paper or from a square of paper. If you cut the black lines, you make a strip. And if you fold all the purple lines, you get hello, hell, held, hold, cold, cord, word, world. So you can try that out at home. And we wrote this software to come up with these designs. Sadly, we wrote the software after we finished making the piece. So while these are the cut and crease patterns you would use to make brush with words and our brush to words word ladder, we didn't actually have this as a reference. We just had the final designs. And so we ended up we folded a very long strip of red paper by hand to make all the words. And here you see the very final taping and gluing process. While we designed this font like 7 years ago, we'd never actually folded it before. It was quite tedious, it turns out. And there's the finished book from the brush. And then we connect the parts and we get our brush with words. And if you want to play with any of the software I showed, you can follow this link at the bottom, and encourage you to design your own word ladders or design your own strip foldings and make your own. I don't necessarily recommend making your own magical brush. That's difficult, but thanks.
Great.
Up we have Susan Gaylord. And I first saw Susan Gaylord's spirit books at a local talk she gave last fall here in Lowell. And it's been a project she's been working on for decades. So take it away, Susan.
Okay. So one of the things I just want to say is I'm thrilled to be here and connected with this show in Lowell, because I started in art in the late 70s doing calligraphy at my dining room table in North Billerica, which is one town over from Lowell. And Lowell has been, I got really involved in art stuff in Lowell in the early 80s. So anytime I come here, it's kind of like coming home. Mm-hmm. So the spirit books are a series. I made the first one in 1992. And it sort of has a longer, so they are, I call them kind of part art and part sculpture and part book. And I'm just going to show you one of them. So this is, so all of the spirit books have three parts. There's the base, which kind of gives it, lets it stand up from the pedestal wherever it's sitting. It has a crate, what I call a cradle of natural materials, and then it has a book on top. And all the parts come apart. Unfortunately, when I exhibit it, I can't really have people touching it, but it is kind of meant to be a book that can be handled. So this was a rose, a root from a rose bush that did not make it in my garden. When I dug it up, I was like, well, that's that's pretty cool. So some of these excuse me, are one piece, just one piece. Some of them are multiple pieces put together. And then the books are all pattern. So every book, every page is similar, but a little bit different. And my idea of kind of reading the book or going through it is that it's a meditation. So I started with the spirit books in, they started 4 years before the whole concept of, and although I was making books at the time, they have really nothing to do with books until later in the story. My initial thing was completely the response to the natural materials. And it started, we've been in our house a couple of years. We did this massive pruning and we had a driveway full of a mountain of brush. And as I was taking the pieces, cutting them, getting ready to take them to the tree dump, I just felt this incredible connection with the materials. And it was almost like they were speaking to me somehow. So I brought a lot of them in my studio. And then I spent 4 years trying to figure out what to do next. And that was right around the time that Joseph Campbell Power of Myth interviews were done by on PBS, and I'm blanking on
Bill Moyers.
Bill Moyers, right? Okay, so I was really, one of the things that Joseph Campbell said was that the mythology is based on the idea that the visible world that we see is supported by an invisible one, and I felt like that's what, there was this level of communication from that invisible world that I was feeling from all the things I gathered. I ended up with kind of three things. One is that I knew right from the start that I had this, felt like I had this really personal connection, but I knew that what I wanted to make from it was art. So not just some kind of personal ritual or just saving the pieces, but I wanted them to turn into art. The other thing is that I knew that I did not want to spray them and treat them in any way, because that sort of came up in conversation as I was trying to figure out what to do. I felt that there was this, whatever communication there was, I didn't want any man-made barriers to it. And then the third thing was, my background had been calligraphy. I'd spent a lot of time with words, and I knew that whatever kind of communication I had, it was not verbal, and there would not be words in whatever I did. So I tried some boxes, some different things, and then just sort of what seemed to be out of nowhere. It was 1992, it was the fall, and I was playing around the studio, and I took 2 pieces of grapevine and I put them together so it kind of looked like a cradle, and then I just made a book and put it on it, and it was like, okay, this accomplishes it. This is what I want to say with it. And so now I think the one I've done is 102. So it's, I mean, it sounds like a lot, but it's also over 32 years. So some years I might make 5, some years I might make 1, but it's been this ongoing thread through my work. The books are all, the process is really organic. It just sort of evolved. So when I made that first one, I really had no thought. I mean, I cannot think of any sequence of thought that led me to making it a book. It just kind of happened. So I've really tried to keep that same openness as I do. So I don't plan ahead. I don't make sketches. I just start with the natural, whatever the natural materials are, and then I build it from there. And so one of the things is now I'm coming to the point where I think I might be sort of closing this series. And I'm thinking about what do I want for it? What do I want to do with it? So one of the things is I want to show them more, and especially in solo shows. And I'm happy to say that they will be shown at the New England Quilt Museum, which is about a block away from Brush, in the fall of 2025. And then the other thing I want to do is create some other kind of ancillary material. Well, one is to do some kind of a video that can give the experience of what it's like to see them in person, but in video, so stressing more the meditative aspects of it. And then I'm also working on a kind of a meditation journal with the spirit books as a starting point. So, and one of the things, you know, depending on how old you are, where you are, but I'm at a point now where I'm thinking about sort of the legacy or the longevity of the pieces and trying to set up some things that they'll continue to go on. So that's it.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Fantastic. And I'm just in awe that you've continued this for so many years, this project. It's great.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up is Christina Hajosi. And I first met Christina when I joined the New England Book Artists, and where she is the president. She is a force of nature in her love of the medium and her dedication to sharing her passion. She's an accomplished photographer, paper marbler, I think that's the word, thrift store patron, and many other skills that continue to reveal themselves to me. So take it away, Christina.
Book artist. I marble because of being a book artist, but being a marbler has kind of been a way that people think of me, because I guess because not a lot of people do it and not a lot of people teach it. So I'm kind of dwell in this title of being a marbler. And I also love flag books, and this particular flag book is called The Descent. It kind of goes into a cubist kind of descending stairs, like nude descending the staircase kind of an idea. For me, flag books just really can be conceptualized in a lot of ways. And I feel that that's kind of my main thing. So I would say I'm a conceptual book artist. A lot of the work in the show has to do with man and nature or some kind of conflict. This is true for this piece. It could be thought of as the marbling vat itself actually disintegrating and falling apart and not working. So the images throughout from the top to the bottom change. So there's kind of like a story of mortality going on as it descends downward. The flags are two-sided. There's a front that's got a solid historical stone patternation, and then the back has the more alternative kind of view. You're seeing here the colophon down at the bottom. I like to take detritus or the waste products of making the main book and make the actual colophon out of it with all the information. Just showing you some process, because I know a lot of people maybe not don't really understand how some of this works. It has a recessed window on the cover that houses a nice piece of marbling. So you're seeing me cleaning out the covers. It's a long piece. So this is actually doubled bookboard. So that's two pieces of bookboard mounted, and it's going to get wrapped in a nice black rayon cloth. I recessed some cording in the cover. So here's the back side of the covered boards getting the recessed cording adding. Free check on the ends of my nylon cording material. These are just nice little details that take your book into interesting places. Getting ready to make the text block or the insides. Most of my books contain a found object, and in this particular book's case, it's the actual interior black accordion that the flag book is coming off of. That's actually window shade that has been cut to size, and you're seeing sort of the flags and some other papers, and you're seeing the patternation, the plan or the grid off to the right here. Flag books work in a opposite kind of across the spine. So you're seeing some of the layouts as it's building here. Yeah, some nice views of it in different ways. You
Mhm.
can post flag books in a whole lot of different ways. So here you're seeing it laid on a table, which is a nice theatrical kind of look to it. I like the fact that it can be posed. So it starts with the everything being nice and beautiful and fresh, and then you start to see the degradation and the surface of the marbling vat happen. I was thinking about coral reefs bleaching and the waters rising and the acidity of the waters causing the coral reefs to bleach out a little bit, given the fact that it's got these corals. Here's just a vertical view down on the text block. Putting the block onto the boards, laying in a end paper, and again, the end paper on the front of the book at the beginning of the story is solid, and the piece at the end is much more choppy, and it kind of tells a narrative of decline or descent, as I've called it. Yeah. I really groove on a nice flag book. It's something I'm kind of known for. And the big ones that fold up into these dark, kind of boxy shapes that are long and thin, kind of feel almost kind of sad, have a sadness about them, even though they're beautiful. Yeah.
Mhm.
I've really enjoyed the idea of saving waste products and seeing what kind of tangent can come out of that. Yeah. This is another one. It's called Struggle of Wills. It's a struggle of man against nature or animal, man against father, particularly father against child, and a literal struggle over inheritance. It's compounded accordion folds that are sewn together in different ways. It comes out in a lot of different shapes. It's got a lot of stitching, hand stitching. It's got handwriting, and then in some cases, stitching that goes across the handwriting that kind of muddles your reading of it. There's weaving, there's marbling on ledger sheets and things of that nature. There's body and hair pulling, and it's a little aggressive, even though it seems beautiful. And it's actually kind of a little disturbing in some of the writing. Yeah. I kind of like that. I've lost a lot of family members in the last 4 years, so this is part of my grief book series where I'm working on memory and textures and metaphor and just seeing things in these marbled imagery. It's like Rorschach's. Yeah. There's hidden pockets. There's definitely a lot of like this tongue-like. There's metaphors for the farm life that I grew up on. We raise beef cattle and catfish, and some of the stories that are in the book are about like horseback riding and abuse of animals that we saw on the farm from my dad. So it's a little bit of a parenting don't kind of scenario, more or less. Yeah, it's got some scary stuff, but it's beautiful at the same time. So I kind of feel like it's working for me, helping me through some of the grief. So this one was in 2021. Yeah. Definitely got some figurative elements hiding inside these marbled imagery. The colophon for this piece is more marbling with a whole lot of handwritten notes, and it is hiding inside of one of the interior pockets. This is my most recent work, actually. This was done finished maybe literally like 2 or 3 days before we installed. This is called Red Line. This is what I call a belt book. There's a found object, which is the red canvas belt that is going down the spine of this book. This is a centerfold view. Again, we're dealing with combining ideas of the narrative that comes out of a marbling session. So a marbling vat that goes to exhaustion and quits working, stops behaving in a proper way. And that's when sometimes those fringe times that I get really fantastic imagery. I was angry about the Alabama IVF and some of the feminist, surges in me. And I started kind of spraying onto these dead vats, an oval shape over and over again. And so this is made out of prints from 3 different print sessions on dead vats. And I was repeating this oval movement with my hand. And I got some really nice repeats of a feeling with the placement of the imagery being in an interesting way. I wasn't sure at first whether I was going to have the kahunas to actually fold it in half and sew right through it. But I did, which I'm pleased I did. So you can see these are really atypical marbling imagery where you're not supposed to be able to get things that don't spread nicely. You know, it's like totally counter to how most marbling behaves. And I was getting these lines, which most marbling, you can't get an actual line. The color is going to disperse the minute it hits the surface of the marbling bat. So the red line was appearing and that word was driving me at the same time. So I don't know if when I was playing, I necessarily put all the attributes that the final piece have on it in my head, but it's an evolution in book design. For all of us, we go through stages, and sometimes the meaning of something makes itself apparent. So here I am clipping all these prints. It was 12 prints. It was 12 really beautiful prints, some of which were back-sided. So were marbled on the front and the back. And I just stacked them up, and here I am starting to stitch. It's stitched down the middle with the actual canvas belt attached. You're starting to see that I had ideas of stitching into and adding additional red lines. And now we're adding more red lines into each double page spread. Here you're seeing how an image on another side is halved and reacting to its neighbor. So the stacking into that one signature that just gets folded means that the centerfold and the cover are the only two that you ever see as a whole image ever again. But the interplay between these pieces are fantastic. And if you stand in front of this book and you hold pages up into the middle, you can recreate the sensation of seeing the whole print looking over the sides of the text block. So it's very interactive. It's been a lot of fun. I've stitched so much into this book. I mean, it's 18.25 inches long. So going all the way up and all the way back for these arches takes over an hour each pass. But it's been a fantastic project. So I loved it. Yeah, anyway. Yeah, red line. Yeah, red line, don't go over the red line. Red line means a whole lot of things. It's a warning, it's a political metaphor. It's also, which I kind of dig, the idea that if you take a combustion engine, like a car engine, and you rev it too far, you rev that engine too far, it actually screws it up, it messes up your engine. So it's really kind of this breaking point. And anyway, I enjoyed making it. This piece was in Cape Bound. This is called Rolodex, and it's an altered book from the book Climate and Man, which is a U.S. government printing office publication that's done every year. This is from 1941. I made 41 little signatures down, and this is also a belt book. It's attached to the belt in exactly the opposite direction. In Cape Bound, we hung it on a wall with a swivel in the middle so that it had a kind of a spiral effect as a vertical. Here we're seeing it a little bit different. I just thought I'd give you a couple of close-ups on some of this. It's a whole lot of pages out of a book with charts on what's going on in the United States as far everything from climate change and humidity, precipitation. How is it impacting agricultural output and things of that nature? A lot of marbling on top of ledgers, again, playing with quantification and charts of numbers and dates and quantifying things, and silk that's marbled as well, that's shredded. Yeah, so just a hairy, fun, crazy mess. So I really kind of had fun with that one. These are again found objects. I went to a marina yard sale a couple of years back and came across these that are referred to as bait bags. You would put like chicken nets or whatever, and this goes inside the trap. So I kind of look at these as like creature-like things. Again, it could be thought of as the stitch as some kind of man's manipulation and the kind of hybridization and weird kind of creature-like things that we're causing to happen. And I don't know, it could be positive, it could be negative. I'm feeling like it's probably going to lean more negative in my mind, but again, beautiful, little challenging. I'm not sure how people will react to things, but the bait bag book series goes on. I'm gonna keep. I got a whole lot of them, so I'm still having fun with those. We get a little closer in. So again, it's two-sided marbling, usually experimental in some way, so it's not as traditional. A lot of hand stitching. Yeah, very organic, and they're kind of on these antique spools, so they kind of spool up and get smaller. Another creature, another found object. This is called Big Little World. I went on a plein air day with some people as a bookmaker instead of as a painter. And I sat next to a really beautiful pond, that lily pond that had not been cleaned out. And it had these little buggy guys crawling around. Even though it was beautiful, it was kind of freaky and otherworldly. And the found element is one of my deceased family members. It's a sleeve of a sweater that was so prized and cherished and never fit her. So this is also about a struggle with body image and other things too in my mind. So some of these are amalgams of things for me that other people may never know, which is fine. That's why I love a good conceptualization. She never wore this sweater because it never fit her, but she loved it so much. But then finally at the end, it was moth eaten in a box, and only this little bit of a sleeve was left. So it was kind of like sad, a little bit sad, but it's so beautiful and hairy. And since in the show it looks like this, I thought I might show you some angles of it actually opened up. It's a pop-up accordion structure with some cutaways to make it a little more exaggerated. So you're seeing the sky reflected into the pond, the vegetation in the pond, the little bugs floating around. There were these pretty pink flowers, like lotus blossoms or something. Yeah. Yeah, it's two-sided as well. So I love the fact that stitching goes through both sides, so you get this kind of double narrative of that same stitch. Yeah. And there I am in front of my installation. I was psyched to be part of all this. I've been up there already 4 times now, and I just enjoy spending time with all the books, and not just seeing the books, but also encountering the people that come. I think that the people that walk in are pretty taken aback about how cool it is and realizing that these are books. I think some of them don't initially go, oh, this is a book show. It takes them a minute to kind of process that these are all unusual book structures, which is kind of part of the joy of it. Yeah.
Well,
Back
thank
to
you,
you, Sal.
Christina. It's great to hear everything and hear your process. I don't know much about marbling, but it was great to get that sense of it. Okay, Annie, you're up next. And Annie, how do you say your last name, Annie?
Zebekolu.
Zebekalo. Thank you. I didn't want to try it.
No problem.
Slaughter that. I was impressed with Annie's use of weathered found objects and combined with printed handmade paper as well as weathered paper. So go
Cool.
on.
Okay. I'm gonna try to go to this screen share.
Okay.
All right.
Hmm.
So see if we can put the people. Okay. So first of all, I want to thank both Sally and Jim for all of the work that they put into this show. It's always so much fun to be part of one of these things. And when the people who are doing it are so affable and so supportive, it really makes for a wonderful experience. So thank you both very much. As Sally mentioned, I'm very fascinated with found objects, and I also seem to have some kind of an attraction for deterioration and discarding of things. I think that the things that we throw away say a lot about us. And anyway, this first piece came about because I found these 2 pieces of car fender on the street on the way to my studio. and they had been, broken off the back of a car, run over multiple times, rained on, rusted, etc. A guy who has a studio next to mine was kind enough to drill the holes on the left side of the book so that I was able to make those two pieces into covers. This book is called Damaged Goods, and the content of the book, which is handmade paper, the text of it is from a kind of anonymous piece of graffiti that I found that deals with homelessness, abuse, and people who have been discarded in some kind of way. So, yeah, so this is Damaged Goods, and this is some of the pages on the inside. You can see that I tried to damage the pages as well. So the whole thing kind of speaks to misuse and throwaways that kind of haunt our culture. Christina, thank you for this photograph.
No problem.
This piece is one that I made in memory of my dad. My father was a journalist and during the 1950s was targeted by Joseph McCarthy for his work in helping to form the first labor unions for newspaper workers. He was at the time an assistant editor at the New York Times Book Review. And when he was blacklisted, he was summarily fired by the Times. So this, the box on the top is actually a drawer from my father's desk at the Times. And the pages that weigh it down on the bottom are all pages from the New York Times Book Review. This piece is called Singular Truth. This was the beginning of a project that I started during the pandemic. I was isolated, as was everybody else. And in that period of time, I kind of gravitated towards something that felt comforting and familiar, which was this old pair of boots that I was wearing every day. And so I started out by making drawings of the boots every day. I made, I don't know, maybe 30 drawings of them. And I became fascinated with two things. One was the fact that repetition is never repetition. Every time you do something again, you learn something different about what you're doing. And also the idea that it's interesting to explore what you don't know about something that you think you know. This is the piece that came of it. What I did was I made multiple images of each of my drawings, and I created tunnel books out of each of them so that you kind of get sucked into each one of the images. And this piece is called Reboot. When I was growing up, we always had an old dictionary in our house. Both of my parents were writers, and we had a big stand, like a music stand, that always had a big dictionary on it. And as you know, with the advent of Google, etc., dictionaries have become somewhat obsolete. And this one had was really kind of on its last legs. And what I did was I took the dictionary and submerged it in water, hoping to sort of give it some life force again. And the contortions of the pages fell apart into two pieces. This is called Roots. My thought was that it kind of brought the paper back to the tree. So this piece is called A Gathering of Leaves, and it comprises something like 1,200 tea bags, all of which I drank. I don't know if I'm proud to say that, but anyway, I did. And it kind of evolved organically. I'm very interested in rhythm, but actually more so in the interruption of patterns and interruption of rhythms than repetition of rhythms. So the thing that fascinated me about doing this one was that the tea bags dried to different tonalities. And as I was assembling them, this piece took about 8 months to do. And that was largely because it took me that long to drink that much tea. And when I started, I began at the bottom of the piece and kept adding layers going up. In order to preserve everything, I put a matte acrylic on top of it. And the thing that I love about it mostly is what happened with the strings from the tea bags, because the tea bags themselves really are pretty linear, but the strings kind of went nuts. So, and I've always thought of tea as sort of a way of kind of sitting and meditating. And this, the reason I named it A Gathering of Leaves, obviously tea leaves, but also when you meditate, you really do kind of gather your thoughts and think about things in that kind of a way. This is a collaborative book that I did with Anya Gilmore. We were part of a project that was called the Encyclopedia Project. A book artist friend of ours had found in the trash a whole set of encyclopedias, and she contacted a number of book artists to see if anyone was interested in taking a volume or two and creating an artist book out of it. So since we had decided to work together, we asked if we could get volume A and volume Z. And we created this book, which is called Learning Curve, which was meant to represent all of the information that you would gather as you made your way from the beginning to the end. This is, the spine of it is made from canvas. It's all hand sewn, and it's got an accordion structure, which you can see a little bit up in here. But the accordion structure goes all the way around the book. And the book can be displayed in any number of ways. We've had it done as a kind of a oval a cylinder that goes up. We've had parts of it hung on the wall, and it kind of spills down into a tumble of pages on the bottom. This is a piece that I made sculpting with handmade paper. It gave me the idea of little, maybe baby birds or little forms that were kind of wanting both food and attention. And what happens as you read this piece from the left to the right is that language begins to be introduced into, and the piece is called And So It Began. This is another collaborative book that Anya and I did together. It was inspired by a Chesterton quote, which is, "There are no rules of architecture for castles in the clouds." So this is an accordion structure, but a random accordion structure that kind of folds out in all kinds of different ways with little tunnels. In the upper left on this screen, you'll see the front of a middle school locker door. That was my my inspiration for this one. that was made into the cover of the book. And it's a book about bullying. The book is called Target Practice. And there is a line of text in each of them, which is a quote that I took from a book about why kids bully each other. And then I superimposed on it these large graphics, which are sort of the kind of taunting things that kids say to each other when they're bullying them.
Okay, this is my display there at the show, and I'm currently a photographer, but in my earlier career, I was very interested when I discovered book arts as a way to make the photography more three-dimensional. And I've been working with cyanotype, which is a 19th century photographic process, one of the earliest ones to be able to make a stable print out of a photograph. So these, oops. Okay, so this is two pieces. The one on the left is called Grasses and the one on the right is called Corn. My titles are pretty obvious usually, but the white areas are ones made from photographs. And then the dark blue is used on the left. It's a photogram of laying the grasses on the piece and exposing them directly. And then on the right, the corn, I just drew the corn on the other ones there. And this is using this type of fold goes by a number of tulip fold, lotus fold, triangle fold. But it's very simple, but still come out with a lot of different possibilities. Now this is another, this is, I started to work with cigar boxes. So this one, the box is wrapped with a cyanotype photograph, but the leaves were drawn using oil pastel, and then the cyanotype was on top of that and then exposed. And when I was making this, I thought, oh, I'm going to just have all these leaves to be able to use in a lot of pieces. And then the process, this took like 80 leaves in this. But anyway. Okay, then this is what I've begun to work with. This is a kaleidoscope book. And it can be rotated around, as is shown here. So it's also a way of, I'm using a lot of different images and pulling them all together. So it's a lot of fun to do these and figure out the mechanics of it. Yeah. And this one is called Wave, very kind of obvious, but we had a show, Christina was mentioning the Cape Bound show. This was with the New England book artists. We had one at the Cape with all inspired by imagery of the Cape. And so I immediately thought of a wave. Now this is using cyanotype, but this is material that we use to make digital negatives, but to just take it and using the cyanotype directly on it, and also highlighting the frothy parts with oil pastels. But I think that in the shows, it's always the kind of the joy of opening these books and seeing what's inside. And unfortunately, we can't have people handling everything when it's on display. And then this one is called Mountain Stream. And, the piece is the left. This is a detail here. And I've incorporated using the transparency film with the cyanotype on it on top of the print. So we kind of have more of the feeling of that. And I was delighted to see, how, the glue, when gluing the piece, the transparency down, creates these swirling patterns, which just add to the sense of water. And then this one I call Sea View. And when I saw that I had a window space to work with, I was like, wow, I can take using the transparency, even go further and make a fully transparent piece. So this has the cyanotype, and then there's actually a black and white print on the back of it, and it works like a window shade. Yeah. So anyway, that is all of my work, but I'm going to present a few other people who are not able to be here today. And we'll talk about, I'll just show pictures and read their artist statements. So the first one is Marcy Scudder and her piece, My Mother's Garden. And this is a photo. Thank you to Christina for doing this as Marcy was installing her piece. And her description of it is, well, her statement, project statement, how does one experience a summer garden? How does one experience a summer day? We feel the we feel the color, the sunshine, the heat. We hear the birds and the bees. We taste every imaginable sweetness. It's a blur of color and energy. It's an ever-changing, fully immersive, full-body sensation. What is a garden? It's a regrowth, rebirth, renewal. It's an ongoing conversation connecting our past with our futures. It's a singular moment. Blink and it's gone. My mother and her, this is more from, we are all our mother's gardens. My mother, and this is Marcy speaking in the first person. My mother and her two sisters survived the Holocaust only due to the kindness of strangers and miracle of fate. When she died, I was left with her house and her garden. I tended that garden for my children and my children's children after that. We continue to bloom, we continue to grow. This is her explanation of the work. I begin with a photograph. I print, I cut and fold the imagery into three-dimensional quilt-like abstract paper structures and objects that occupy shape and define space. My process is slow, repetitive, mindful, meditative. It is one in which I am truly present to the experience of making. I reconstruct, re-envision, and recreate. I play with scale and how it transforms and informs, affecting one's preconception of sense and movement. That's it for Marcy. Okay, Anya Gilmore. And this is her installation there. And this is her piece. It's called Leaving Behind. And her artist statement's very interesting, what this is, because you don't see it at first, but if you move close, you can see it. This is personal handwritten family letters of dear people separated from each other on two hemispheres, collected by my mother circa 1980 to 1990, including the time of martial law in Poland from December 1981 to July of 1983. Woven into over 5 meters family tapestry memoir, a conscious way of transforming fibers to give a new life and a new way of being together, with unexpected family separation and misplacement. The tapestry is purposefully hung on bamboo, a tree that often recognized as a symbol of strength, flexibility, and adaptation to the most difficult circumstances. This one is knowledge, and her explanation is a folded book. Oh, and please, this is a Polish name. I'll give it a go. Wisława Szymborska's poem, Contribution to the Statistics. The form allows the viewer to explore the book from all sides, a vision of the feeling of permanent unrest and the quality of human nature, giving a statistical account and contemplating picture of equality in the face of inevitable human suffering and death. Okay. This is another collaborative piece of hers. This is it's called The Four Women of Freedom, and the four women artists are Gunta Gassa, Malgorzata Oakes, and Stephanie Stigliano. The artist statement here is the collaborative work by the four women created for the traveling exhibit that talks about ongoing global conflicts and issues related to human rights, violence, aggression, war, social and racial injustice. So Anya's part is, in order to bring us back together, we need to recognize what tears us apart. A collection of words written by people from all over the world answering the question, what divides humanity today? And Goethe's part is, freedom is messy, it is prickly, especially when one person's freedom dominates and impinges on others. From Malgorzata Oakes, Freedom Project is my contribution to speak out about the significant issue regarding lack of freedom that touches many lives around the globe. It is important we continue to be resilient to strive for a better future. And Stephanie Stigliano, as I feel increasingly desperate in a hostile world, these prints represent my hope that nature will ultimately prevail. And one thing, what is possible to do with this book is to pull each piece out and read it. However, we don't encourage that to happen in the exhibit. And this one is called Mental Gymnastics Continued. And it starts by defining the word observe, the verb. Notice or perceive something and register it as being significant. The act of watching someone or something carefully for a period of time, especially to learn something. This is a survey of incoming information and cumulative data documenting 1 month, March 6 to April 6 of 2020 in the COVID pandemic. Global lockdown, introduction to new vocabulary, social changing behavior, and growing uncertainty. Text written in 2 languages and Polish. Okay. So then we're moving on to Chris Perry. And Chris's work, I put his website up here because, you know, if you can go to his website, and he's got some videos of how he makes his pieces, which are pretty amazing what goes into them. So this is his installation. His what he's written here, it's a bit of a poem, which is lovely. Flip books and cutting paper, combining the two, and then extending the paper beyond the cover, adding a second and then a third, making shapes out of multiple books, and then adding paper strips, straight down and very acute triangles, and then adding more books, making bigger shapes, not always by connecting the books, and then adding gatherings of tiny pieces of paper made from thousands of cuts, some making very small triangles, other very long, and then moving them off the pedestal and onto the wall, and then the ceiling, And then by making some, they fill the wall or a room. In 2008, Chris started creating books modeled on flip books, but with the action expressed by cutting away the empty space around the object in question. Because the offset caused by the signatures, he titled the series Ripples, beginning a continuing set of pieces that emulate water. And the early pieces stood alone, single volumes that had a small number of pages, each carefully planned and cut into. The work incorporates a number of signature elements to elicit the information he wishes the viewer to take away. In the same way, in the same fashion, a writer will use the same elements repeatedly in her writing. They use odd names or staging the action in the same time period or location over and over, or simply to have a particular way of crafting sentences. While still exploring the small spaces, he creates within a few hand-cut volumes. Chris is actively planning pieces that address entire rooms using thousands of volumes to depict water structures such as cataract, a tsunami, or a stormfront. Okay, now this is a tour of the exhibit, and so then you get to see how they are in the space. Okay, well, that's it. So thank you all for joining us. And if anybody has any questions, I'll stop sharing.
I have a question for you, Sally.
Sure.
About the leaves, I didn't quite understand you. It was the second thing you showed, I think, the box.
The cigar box, yeah.
And you said something about you drew the leaves with the oil pastels and then they were exposed to the sun.
Well, first I drew all these leaves all over a sheet of paper and then put the cyanotype solution over that. And because it's oil pastel and the solution is water-based, that resists it. And then
That's brilliant. Those were wonderful. And even
thanks.
though you painted the solution on, they stayed there in their color. And
Yeah,
didn't
because
shock.
because it resists the water, yeah. Yeah, so it's a stronger color if doing it that way. If I were to draw on top of the cyanotype, then you're drawing on blue, which is going to be more muted colors. Yeah,
Right. Oh, that box is gorgeous.
thank you. Thank you. So anyway, that was a great, I mean, it was great to hear even more about everybody's work and what the processes are. And are there any more questions from anybody?
I just like to say grace under pressure. Thank you very much, Sally, and everyone
Okay.
who persevered.
Thank you,
Did a
Stephanie.
lot of wonderful things. It was great to hear about the artists. What a wonderful collection of pieces to show. I couldn't get up to Lowell, and so I especially appreciate you hosting this. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Fantastic.
Oh, it's a beautiful, beautiful show. And I can't wait till the opening and to be able to see all these in person. It's good for you, Sally. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you, Sally. Sally, how many of the artists will be at the opening? Do you know?
No, a number of them can't be. I know, let's see, I'll be there. Eric said that the Domain Bass crew will be there.
At least
Some
two of
them.
us.
Two of you. Yeah. And I know that Anya said she'd be there. I'm not sure. I mean, things get scheduled and then there's other, on top of travel plans and all. So unfortunately, not everybody can be there, but it's also a wonderful, it is great, as Christina was saying, being able to go in there numerous times has been wonderful and to really spend time. And I think Jim is lucky because he gets to live around it.
I agree.
Duration of the show.
Lowell's a good visit. You can tag team that with some other fun things. Yeah. It's gonna be a good experience. I'm teaching that on the 20th, so I unfortunately won't be able to attend. But I do plan on going back up a few more times, definitely. Yeah. Thank you again, Sally. Thank you, Jim. What a lovely presentation we had. I'm going to have some fun with a little editing to make things a little shinier for us.
Yeah.
And I hope you can join us in May for more show and tell events with New England book artists. On the 19th, we're going to have 3 NEBA members presenting. And we do have 1 spot left. So if somebody's interested in sharing, please contact Carolyn Letvin. She's our show and tell MC. And we have a special guest on the 26th of May. Emily Martin is going to come and talk to us, which is a real treat. So we're going to get a little bonus in May with a special guest. So I hope you can join us next time. I'm going to edit this soon, and you can check out our YouTube channel for other show and tell events. Thank you again, Sally. Thank you, Jim, and all the artists for talking. Get in. It's a fantastic show.
Well, thank you, Christina, for doing all the tech behind the scenes. And yes, I'd also like to thank Jim for giving us this opportunity to be able to exhibit at the Brush. It's been great fun. Okay.
My pleasure.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Bye.
Have a good afternoon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.